I'm Kelsey Humphreys here with Nathalie Lussier, which that is such a cool last name. Lussier, I kind of just want to say it over and over. It's very fancy. Nathalie Lussier is a blogger, award-winning entrepreneur, an international keynote speaker, and the creator of the wildly popular free 30-day list building challenge program for entrepreneurs who are ready to scale their email lists. She built her first health blog into a site that now has over 750,000 yearly visitors and more than 1 million page views. As her blog grew, viewers and clients began asking how she expanded so quickly. This interest led to the creation of her second business, a 6-figure consulting company offering digital marketing training products. Her current focus is on her growing software startup, AmbitionAlly, which she co-founded with her husband. I sat down with Lussier, who went straight from college into entrepreneurship, to talk about how she keeps transitioning from one successful business idea to another. I think what I love about your story is you'll be able to kind of help people figure out when to pivot, because you started designing websites when you were 12, and she designed her high school website, which sounds like such a nightmare. I'm so sorry that you didn't know, right?
I had no
first
idea.
one. That sounds like a nightmare. And then you get amazing jobs. Like you got a job after college.
Right.
You were offered a job on Wall Street, decided to turn it down to start a health blog. So bloggers, lean in. So what I want to know right off the bat, that blog became successful enough that people started asking you about your website and how you built it and how you did it, which led to the next business. So what do you think led to the first success with your blog?
I think the biggest thing that I learned with my first blog is that it was all about passion for me, right? So I knew that I had to be passionate about my topic, and I also had kind of that personal story to it too. I knew that eating healthy was really helpful for me, but also for my family, because a lot of them had, heart attacks and all kinds of other problems, and I knew this is what I want to do. I want to change people's health, and so I think that passion came through. But obviously learning marketing helped a ton. So even if I had tons of passions, but if nobody knew about my blog, it would have never gone anywhere. So really learning about how to blog properly, how to actually write for the kinds of people I wanted to reach, that was the biggest aha for me, because I used to write for other people who were into health already. And then I realized, these people are never going to buy a product, never going to sign up for anything that I offer. And so when I kind of pivoted and I said, okay, I'm going to write to people who used to be like me before I found healthy eating. And that made a huge difference. I had a blog post that went really well. It was called How to Open and Eat an Avocado. So simple.
I feel like maybe most people should know that, but continue.
Right, but that was me before I learned about opening and eating avocados,
Right.
And so that started to attract through the search engines and through other people the kinds of people who actually needed my information, and not people who were already super healthy eaters and just needed a couple tips, but people who were actually going to sign up for a course or a program with me. And that made a big difference.
Yeah. Did you offer a course or program through that?
I did, yes. So that's the first time I learned how to launch a course, and it was called Cure Cravings Forever. And it was...
I need that. Is this still available?
It's not, because it just got outdated. But if I were to refresh it, I think you could do well again. But yeah, so that was actually another kind of learning that I had to do. Was the first time I tried to launch a course in that space, it was very generic. It was set yourself up for success. And who wants to do that, right? So once I talked to people and I found out what their biggest stumbling blocks were around eating healthy, they kept saying over and over again, I have cravings, I can't deal with those. And so that's why I decided to call my course Cure Cravings Forever and focus on that aspect, as opposed to just having a broad program that might not appeal to anybody.
So you say that's what they were saying. Does that mean you sent out a survey?
I did send out a survey, but most of this came from one-on-one conversations. So I actually did a little kind of giveaway that if somebody signed up for something, I would give away 3 spots to coach with me. And that was kind of like a fun contest. I was trying to just kind of drum up business. And all of those conversations, that kept coming up over and over again. And it's that on the phone conversation that made the biggest difference for me.
Gotcha. Okay, so what year was that?
That was in 2010.
Okay, so 2010, you launched a blog and an online course.
Yeah.
Today, 2017, oh, how the landscape has changed. So if you were going to launch a health blog with some courses today, what would you do at first?
Ooh, that's a great question. So actually, where we are today here is at a conference. So I would definitely try to find other influencers and other people in the space that I could connect with before I tried to launch by myself, because I think that has been a really big thing, that connecting to other people who are doing what you want to do and who maybe already have an audience that you could tap into, that has been huge for us. And I think if I was starting from scratch, that's definitely how I would approach it first. And then I would also, again, kind of talk to people and figure out what they need and what their problems are. What can I actually add to the conversation, as opposed to just, well, this is what I know and maybe they'll buy it.
Mm-hmm. So then you're crushing it with your health blog. So all these people start asking, like, who made your website? How are you doing this? Which of course leads to a service business that you were a little bit reluctant, right?
Yeah.
But you decided to try it. So maybe someone out there who's bombarded with the same questions over and over, how did you know it was time to try it? And what's your advice for making that pivot successful?
Yeah, so I was a bit reluctant because I had done, like you said, web design when I was in high school, and I was like, oh man, that was not my ideal situation at all. But really, because it was a pattern and people kept asking for, my own services to do their website or even consult with them, it was kind of too loud to ignore. And at that point also, my health business had started to kind of become a little bit heavier for me. So it was still my passion, but I realized I didn't have a background in nutrition. I wasn't trained in that space. And I either had to kind of go deep and really get trained on nutrition and actually get a degree or something in that space, or kind of do what came naturally to me, which was more of the technical side of things. So, I went and got a degree in software engineering. So obviously it made sense for me to just pursue that direction. And it wasn't the corporate space. So when I was in corporate, as an intern, I realized that wasn't what I liked. So I realized, okay, actually I could use my skill sets that come naturally to me in the online space and work with smaller business owners, and that kind of was the passionate side of things too. So I decided, okay, I'm going to pivot. And there was definitely a point where I was like, oh man, are people going to think I'm crazy? I was doing health, and now I'm doing web design and marketing, and what's the reaction going to be like? So I sent an email to my whole list. I think I had 5,000 people on the list at the time. Let them know the change in direction, and I got such a great response. People were saying, we've been waiting for you to do this. And I was so surprised. I was like, well, these are just people who are interested in eating healthy. Why would they care about web design and, online marketing stuff? And it turns out that a lot of them had aspirations for doing that kind of online thing themselves. And so maybe they started their own healthy eating blogs, or they started other things in that space. But I kind of gave them permission to do that by changing my own path as well. So I really did bring a lot of those people along with me with the new business too.
Wow, that's cool, because I'm sure someone out there will be like, no one's going to come with me if I change. Right. I also need to point out that you are a sparkly unicorn, because I'm married to a software developer, and there's no way he would ever have a blog or be able to do all the creative marketing and stuff that you do. Part of that is your feminine energy, I'm sure, like being a woman in the business, but you're a unicorn. So then are you actively designing websites for clients?
Yeah, so then I actually took on design clients. I also partnered with other designers and ended up hiring other developers, because it kind of grew and blew up very quickly, which was a sign that I was on the right path. So I started getting clients, and I couldn't really handle the amount of clients I was getting. And I also realized, okay, design, I love it, but it's not necessarily my one unique skill set. So that's why I partnered with other designers as well. So yeah, that kind of took off, and within a year, I was like, wow, I can't, it's I essentially became a project manager at that point. So I was talking to a lot of clients, getting the business in the door, obviously doing some of the development work as well, but I was really managing the team a lot more at that time. And I realized, okay, maybe this isn't what I want to do forever. And that's when I started thinking about doing more consulting, and then also doing more training courses in that space as well, in the marketing space.
Okay, before we move to that, I know there's probably some designers watching who want your advice on managing all of those clients. When I left my job, it was I became an agency of record for a froyo company that had over 200 stores. So I was servicing all of those clients, and clients are hard. It's difficult. So you explode. All of a sudden you have all these clients that want all this stuff done to their website, and make the logo bigger and change the font to something cool. Well, you have to have a web font. I'm sorry, I didn't make the internet. So what's your advice for that? Because I think that's one of the main things that service-based business owners, and that's why they pivot, probably, a lot of them, to doing something more, passive income and courses. But it's just so hard to keep your sanity and stay, engaged and excited sometimes with a huge client load.
Absolutely. Yeah, so some of the things that I learned early on were contracts and client expectations. So, whenever you get on the phone with someone, I'm sure if you are a web designer or a developer, you know this, someone will always say, I want something very simple. And then over time, it ends up being more and more complicated, and that's not what they originally signed up for. So that sort of like creep scope happens on all projects. So realizing and recognizing it and being able to say, hey, this is our contract, this is what we agreed to do. And my favorite phrase was phase 2. So we can always come back and do a phase 2 project.
Smart.
So that really helped us, get the job done and, give them what they wanted when we first signed up to work on their project, but also know that it's not the end, right? Like, we're not going to leave them hanging. There is a way for us to keep working together. And that made a huge difference in expectations and also kind of, how to price things and not feel like, oh no, like this project is going to be 5 times the time that I, anticipated. So that was huge. Also, I created a waiting list. So that really helped too, not trying to take on everybody at the same time, but saying, hey, I'm going to be able to take clients in 3 months. If you want to get on the waiting list, do that now, because if in 3 months you come back, we'll be 3 months out again. So that made a really big difference too. And obviously, tons of little things like project management software helped us a lot. Kind of having meetings with clients and making sure that they're clear with what we're doing, making sure that they have an idea of like how things are progressing behind the scenes if we don't have anything to show them yet, and all those things. Like, they're little details, but they make a really big difference to that client.
Yeah, I think that's also great advice for people watching who are maybe coaches, add a phase 2 onto your coaching program, or consultants and all kinds of any really service-based business. So that's really great advice. So then people, want additions, correct me if I'm wrong, this is how I understand it, to their website, like bells and whistles, cool things, and you decide, okay, it would be such a headache to try and teach them how to do all this and install it and change some HTML. So instead, you bring on your husband and you guys decide to make these plugins. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, so there's so much to unpack here. But first, I want to talk about the husband thing, because I think like you are both engineers, software engineers, right? Yes. And so you're both doing development, or did you create your own lanes within that of separating, and how do you stay married? Basically.
I love that. So it's funny because on our very first date we met in college, and he was studying business, I was studying software, and he asked me, what do you want to do when you graduate? And I said, I want to start a business. And then I'm like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to program and be a developer. So we kind of switched roles. So I obviously started the business, and I'm more on the marketing and kind of business development side. He's more on the development side. So that's kind of how we've created those lanes, and that has definitely helped a lot. And obviously, I could go in and code, but I know that my time is more valuable kind of creating, connections and actually advocating for what features and things I think we should develop, and just understanding the marketplace. I think that is also very valuable for the software space, because things are always changing and evolving. And so that made a big difference. And then of course, in terms of our marriage and our relationship, we do try to have business time and also personal time, so that we don't go crazy. And we used to, in the beginning, we used to talk about business all the time. That was all we talked about. And then I was like, okay, you know what, this isn't quite working. And it was exciting, it was great, but at the same time we kind of got a little bit burnt out talking about it, so we kind of pared it down a little bit, and now we kind of have meetings, and we talk with the team and stuff. So it's not just breakfast, hey, what do you think about this feature, that kind of thing. So that helps a lot.
So with your team that you brought on, you have a few people now, right? Do you manage them? Do you guys have your own teams?
So we're a team of 8 now, and we're all virtual, so we all work from home. But what we do is we try to manage everyone kind of at the same time. So basically, he has other developers as well that work with him now, but we kind of all oversee everything together as much as we can. Definitely there's like the marketing side and more of the development side, but we still kind of oversee both together. And we also have a project manager, and she helps kind of delegate and make sure everything's happening. So it's not just everyone reports to us, but it kind of has that little bit of a buffer, if you will, for us too.
So then you guys together did you initially create AmbitionAlly and then all the things underneath it? Or did you start with one product and then eventually realize we need an umbrella for this?
So I kind of saw more than one product coming down the line, so we created AmbitionAlly first. And we developed our Access Ally, which is our membership site plugin first, but we didn't really intend to sell it right away. We were just using it ourselves for our own online courses, and we decided to develop our Pop-Up Ally plugin. And that was our first commercial thing that we were going to release, because we figured, okay, it's small enough. Obviously there's a need in the marketplace, but we can support it easily. It's not going to be too hard versus a membership site plugin, which has a little bit more in-depth setup and kind of other things that people might want. So we decided to release that first. That was kind of like our test case. And then we did really well. We had, I think, 10,000 downloads of our free plugin within just like a month or two. Wow. And it was like, wow, okay, yeah, there's a lot of response for this. So we kind of knew we were on the right track at that point. And then we released the paid plugin a couple months later.
Gotcha. Okay, so for someone out there who's like, I think I could, make, because I actually feel like it's a trend. Do you think so? I feel like there's a lot of like online courses that then realize, you know what, I need to just create some sort of solution to this. So there's probably a few people watching that are like, maybe I could make an app or some sort of, like Laura Roeder, she made me Edgar. I think like it's happening more and more. What's your advice to that person?
Yeah, so, I feel like I was really lucky because I had a background in software, and I went to a university which is full of software developers, so I kind of had that in my zone, if you will.
Right.
But I think if you don't have that, the most important thing is to understand enough to be dangerous so that when you are talking to a developer, you know whether what you're asking for is realistic and doable or not. Because sometimes, you might say, okay, I want to do an app and it's going to, print something out or, whatever in your mind makes sense. But if that's not physically doable with that software, then it's a little bit trickier to hire someone to do it, and then also not to get hosed on like paying someone to do something like that. So I know also Laura partnered with her husband as well. So I think having someone that's kind of close to the company is really important so that your talent stays with your business as it grows and as it evolves. And obviously you'll hire other people too, but just kind of having that core of the software built in a way that you're not going to lose that person. I think that's kind of important if you're not the technical person yourself.
Right.
So that would be my big kind of like thing to watch out for. But also, if you are selling something like a course or another solution to solve that problem, there is probably a way to make that into a tool and use the feedback that you're getting from your customers to help you design that tool, because that's essentially what we did. We were doing that 30-day list building challenge, and people were saying, I really want to do an opt-in, but I want it to match my site, or I want it to only pop up when someone's about to leave. So those were all like little details that we picked up from our challenge that helped us design that tool.
One thing I want to ask before I switch to a different topic, within your membership, so if someone goes in, this is something that you shared on the She Means Business podcast. I thought it was genius, that if somebody goes in for the list building challenge, they get a login, right? Yeah. And then that has allowed you to sort of upsell behind the scenes. Can you explain that? I thought it was so great.
Yeah, so we call it the login opt-in. Okay. So basically somebody opts in, they get a membership login to your membership site, they get free content or a free course. And then when they log into the dashboard, they can see what else is available that is paid. So you can do a one-click upsell, or you could do like a very limited time offer. So you could say within the next 24 hours, you can sign up for this price. And what we found is, people would sign up for the free challenge and then sign up for a paid course within hours. So just having that available and just seeing what else is there. The way we do it is, if they don't have access to it, it's grayed out as an icon. But if they do, then it's colored. So it kind of unlocks that, I want to collect them all kind of Pokemon type thing that we all have.
Yes.
And just kind of has that a little bit less pushy way of selling, right? So it's not like a hard email or a webinar close or something like that. It's just there. It's like a buffet. You can pick what you want. And that has been huge for our business. Now, everyone who's watching wants to go do that. If they use your membership software, they can do it, right? Exactly. So with AccessAlly, that's okay. AccessAlly. I couldn't remember which ally it was. Okay, yeah. So one thing, as you've heard her talking, you could probably pick up on, she's just really great at listening to the audience and marketing to that audience, sensitive marketing, intentional marketing. So I kind of wanted you to just... And obviously list building is huge, and a lot of people probably have just gobbled up everything you've ever said about list building. So maybe talk about some list building mistakes, or if their list is stuck, what can they try? Some of those things for really speaking and growing to your audience. Yeah, okay, cool. So I think the biggest mistake that I see with list building is not talking very strongly about your opt-in gift, or your opt-in bribe or giveaway, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of times, people might not even have one. They might just say, join my newsletter, or, get free updates, which is not enough to get someone to give you their email address, especially today. There's just too much going on. And it doesn't mean that your opt-in gift is not good if you do have one and people aren't joining. It could be that it's a great PDF, or it's a great video, or a great download, whatever it is that you have. But the way that you talk about it might not be speaking to exactly what people are looking for. So I see people sometimes saying, hey, download my free Find Inner Peace meditation or something like that, right? Which is great, but it could be way more specific. So if you know more about the people who are coming to your website, maybe they're like, for example, a stressed out mom who just needs time, during nap time to just unwind from a crazy day, right? So it could be something like, download this meditation and just listen to it for 5 minutes and undo the damage of a temper tantrum from your kid or something, right? That's super specific, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it can be a lot more clear to who you're speaking to and also who it's going to help. So the more you can get clear in what it is that you're offering, the better, right? And I've downloaded some very simple things like that myself, and when you get it, you're like, oh wow, this is great, but I didn't get that from the website, right? It wasn't clear on the opt-in page, the landing page, or wherever it is. So that's kind of the biggest thing I would recommend to people. And then also just thinking about where your opt-ins are on your website. So a lot of times it's not obvious. And also people have some ad blindness, right? So if you have your opt-in on the sidebar, or maybe it's, within the blog post or something, people might just be like glossing over it completely. So how can you make that stand out? So maybe it is at the top of the page, maybe it's at the end of a blog post, or maybe it's a gentle opt-in that shows up when they scroll to 70%, or an opt-in that shows up when somebody's about to leave. So there's different ways to kind of combat some of that ad blindness a little bit too.
I love that. So I want you to kind of just talk about, right now with list building, I just feel like everyone knows, okay, they're going to give me a freebie, they're going to offer this. So do you have advice on what that should be? Because I've heard a lot of conflicting advice, like just make a tiny listicle. And then other people are like, how about a 4-part video series? What's your take?
Right. So I actually think that it doesn't matter as much what delivery mechanism you use for the information. It's more about how you talk about it. But I will say that you want to match that with what it is that you're going to be selling. So if you know that you're going to be selling a video course, then it makes sense to maybe use videos to get people to kind of know your style and kind of get a taste test of what you're going to be paying for if they sign up. If you're selling a book, then giving away, chapter 1 or 2 is a great thing to do as an opt-in. If you are, maybe doing some coaching, then maybe having, like a super quick webinar or something that people could get like really hot, quick answers on a webinar from you as a way to kind of test out your coaching, again, is a great way to go. So I kind of like to call it like mirroring what you're going to sell in your opt-in or your freebie. And that to me has made a huge difference in our business too. But again, like it doesn't matter that much.
So you've obviously had lots of businesses. I want to know, looking back, what was just entrepreneurship as a whole? I mean, you've never been employed, right? Other than your internships, which is amazing and crazy. Looking back, what has been the worst part and the best part of that journey?
I would say the worst part is probably when I was starting off. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself and in my business. And I remember even my husband, well, back in the day we were just dating, but he would come home and give me these job applications or like, top 10 places to work in the city kind of things.
Right.
And it wasn't so much that he didn't believe in my entrepreneurial vision or dreams. It was more that I was kind of doubtful, and I would share all of my like fears and worries and all of the emotional roller coaster stuff with him. So he just was trying to solve my problem, right? So he was like, okay, this isn't working. She's stressed out. Maybe just a job will solve it. And it's interesting because that taught me a lot about being able to kind of deal with your own stuff within a community of other entrepreneurs, as opposed to sharing that with someone who maybe doesn't get it. And obviously now we're on the same page and he totally is fully on board.
Yes.
But that was probably the hardest thing. And then the best thing I would say is probably being able to hire people and kind of create jobs. It's been really cool to, as our team grows, to kind of see, being able to give someone a full-time job, see their family, see, the things that they are doing at work to grow themselves and to evolve and learn and kind of be a bigger contribution to the team, but also what it does for their family and stuff, being able to work from home and kind of see their kids more. So that to me is probably the coolest thing that I never really anticipated, because I started off just a solopreneur and I never thought I would really have employees necessarily, maybe like contractors or something. So yeah, that has been really, really cool.
Love it. Shatoya, you guys can't see, she's off camera, but I will say that's the coolest thing, because she was looking for a flexible, she wanted part-time flexibility, something meaningful. That just is definitely the coolest thing. So looking back over the whole journey to someone watching who wants to go out, they want to launch, they want to start something as an entrepreneur, or maybe a personal brand, so speaker, author, blogger, what's your number one piece of advice for success?
Yeah, I'll probably say that understanding where you've been really led you to be where you are today and will continue on in your life. So I kind of call this the spiral staircase. I think that a lot of times, we kind of, if we are starting something new, we're like, okay, I'm done with everything I've done in the past. It's a new day, turning over a new page. But more likely it's that you're kind of coming around a circle and you're going to be revisiting things that you've done in the past, or maybe experiences that you've had in the past that are going to lead to new cool things in a completely different level. So kind of same for me when I was doing my web design thing. I realized I kind of felt like I was at square one, but actually I was at a much different perspective. I had a lot more business experience. I had a lot more contacts and information, and so that was a big kind of learning lesson for me. And even with software, I was like, oh, I'm kind of back into software, but it was from a completely different angle. And so if you are starting something, just know that don't discount everything that you've done to this point. Use it. There's probably gold in there. There's probably lessons and experience. I see this a lot with people who are leaving corporate. They say, okay, I was a lawyer, but now I want to start something completely different, and everything I've done so far is not useful, which is not at all the case, right? There's so much, whether that's managing people, communication, there's so much that you can use in your new kind of step forward in your career. So that would be kind of a big one. It's more of a mindset thing, but I think that is something that has been huge for me.
So great. Well, tell us, what is your next pursuit and where can people find you?
Yeah, so we're super focused on our membership software, Access Ally, so people can go and find us at AmbitionAlly.com. So we call it that because we like to help people pursue their ambition, and we want to be their allies in reaching that.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much. Thanks for fitting us in here at FinCon. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys, I wanted to ask you, if you're enjoying this interview, if you would show some love. You could give it a thumbs up, you can take a screen grab and give me a shout out on Instagram. You can share it with a friend who you know will love it. The Kelsey Show is brought to you totally free for 2 reasons. One, I work my face off as a motivational entertainer. I'm an international keynote speaker. You can actually book me to speak at your event, your conference, your meetup, your book club, your kid's baptism. I'm here for it. Just go to kelseyhumphreys.com. There's a link there on the homepage. And 2, viewers like you who support me by buying my books and limited edition swag and all that kind of stuff that can be found on the shop page. Again, just go to kelseyhumphreys.com and you'll find it there. Let's get to the goods on how we take insights from such a super successful person and apply it to our, everyday lives. So here are my top few keys to success for the rest of us.
From my conversation with Nathalie Lussier. What I want to focus on for this is the fact that she kept transitioning from one successful idea to another. And if you want to do the same thing, here's what you can learn from our conversation. Number 1, stay passionate. You have to be passionate about all of your different business ideas to some extent. Sure, there are people who become successful in an industry where maybe they don't love the product or service. They're just passionate about business. They're passionate about building things. Either way, you're going to need passion to sustain you as you go from one idea to the next. Number 2, you have to master marketing no matter what your industry or what your idea. Remember, she said if nobody knew about her blog, it would have never gone anywhere. So her job became getting the word out about her blog. Number 3, you have to actually meet a need. You can't go from one successful idea to another unless there is demand for all of those ideas and you're filling a void in those marketplaces. Number 4, you have to take care of your customers. You have to place high value on customer support, on customer service, or on building relationships, making sure people feel like they know you and trust you. Basic relationship building is going to happen for all of your ideas and businesses that you want to build along the way. And lastly, use your existing experience. I love how she naturally progressed from one interest to another, building on her passions and going from different business model to different business model. But she didn't scrap everything and start over. She said she sees this happen a lot. So as you're trying to build multiple ideas or go from one successful project to the next, apply all that you've already learned from previous ideas and successes to your new project.